Football is a game of numbers and statistics, but it can also be a game of opinions. Some opinions are held by the vast majority of the footballing community and have been generally accepted as facts. No one can deny the greatness of players like Messi and Ronaldo, but there are some opinions that are not as popular, and it's often because the majority have refused to accept them as facts. But on a closer look, they might actually not be far from the truth. It is those opinions we're here to look at today. These are 10 unpopular opinions in football which might actually be true. Now, since we already brought up the topic of Messi and Ronaldo, let's start with them. Messi is one of the greatest goal scorers the game has ever seen, but there's an unpopular opinion that if Ronaldo had not moved to Spain when he did, Messi would not have become a goal machine, and we're inclined to agree. The truth is that rivalry shaped both players, and the fact that they were in the same league helped push them beyond their limits. Messi has the ability to create, dribble, control tempo, and affect games in many other ways apart from scoring, but we would have seen him have similar stats to Ronaldinho had CR7 not come in with a thirst for goals. Ronaldo, being a crazy goal scorer in the same league, probably pushed Messi to score more goals himself. So it's actually not so surprising that Messi's goal scoring peak coincided with the period they were both in the same league. Speaking of former Barcelona players, there are some unpopular opinions about a couple more club legends. Can you guess who we're talking about and what the opinions could be? Take a shot in the comments, we'll see if you're right soon. While you're there, if you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, go do that right away so you never miss out on our amazing content. Now, from a former Barcelona number 10, let's talk about the current one. Let's face it, Lamine Yamal is one of the most hated players in the world right now, and our unpopular opinion is that he gets that much hate because he's different from most other La Masia products. Most of the best talents Barcelona has produced have been players with quiet and calm personalities. Xavi, Iniesta, Fabregas, Pedro, Busquets, and especially Messi all reached the very top, but remained quiet and respectful, never seeming to make much trouble outside the pitch. The likes of Kubasi, Fermin, Balde, and Casado are just as calm and withdrawn as their predecessors. Even Gavi doesn't do much outside the pitch. But Lamine, he's different. He's brave, confident, and very outspoken, and fans aren't used to that. And this is why even some Barcelona fans secretly hate him. They know he's their best player, but they hate it when he makes those controversial posts, and that's simply because they're just not used to it from a La Masia boy. Rival fans who don't like him are usually fans of Cristiano Ronaldo, Neymar, or Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and there's nothing Yamal has done that's much different from what those guys used to do. So we strongly believe he's hated this much because he's not like his predecessors, especially Messi. The next unpopular opinion we'll talk about is about officiating. Technology was introduced to make officiating better, but we're of the opinion that officiating has become worse since VAR was introduced. Back then, we had just one referee officiating a game, no one in his ear trying to influence his decisions, but these days it feels like all referees on ground are now being heavily influenced by their peers in the VAR room, and it starts to affect their judgment. Yes, technology has helped referees catch some decisions they probably would have missed some years back, but in the grand scheme of things, it just feels like officiating has regressed instead of progressed since VAR was introduced. And speaking of officiating leads us to the next unpopular opinion. Smaller teams get robbed more often than big teams. If you go on social media or get into football communities, you would think that Arsenal, Real Madrid, Liverpool, or one of those really big clubs are the ones who are mostly at the receiving end of wrong calls or unfair decisions, but we strongly believe that that's not true. These clubs just have large fan bases, which means that any tiny thing that goes wrong gets amplified. Meanwhile, whatever goes wrong against the smaller clubs is swept under the carpet because they don't have that many followers to make enough noise and bring the attention of everybody to it. And because they're smaller clubs, the media doesn't bother to talk much about it because it doesn't grab attention and get clicks, so that's how it gets ignored and people assume nothing happens. Also, because these teams are hardly ever fighting for trophies, everyone thinks wrong calls against them don't matter much in the grand scheme of things, but we're of the opinion that they suffer from poor officiating more frequently than the bigger teams. Now, remember we said earlier that there are a couple more Barcelona legends we'll be talking about in this video? Well, one of them is Neymar. Everyone says he was stupid to have left Barcelona when he did, and his career went downhill from that point on. But our unpopular opinion is that Neymar's individual prime was when he was in PSG. Yes, when it comes to trophies and Ballon d'Or rankings, it came when he was at Barcelona. But if you look at how he played, his style became more refined when he moved to PSG. He became a more complete player during his years in France. His dribbling, creativity, associative play, goal scoring, and playmaking all became better when he was at PSG. He also developed a better sense of responsibility there, and if not for injuries, it would have been evident that he indeed was a better footballer there. We saw a glimpse of this in 2020 when he dragged PSG to their first ever Champions League final, but unfortunately, they were unable to win the trophy, so everyone counts his entire tenure there as a failure. We don't. And since we've already talked about Messi and Neymar, let's just complete the trifecta and and talk about Luis Suarez. The unpopular opinion about him is that after Pelé and R9, no striker comes close to Suarez when it comes to footballing ability. You can argue who's the greatest striker, who's the most decorated, who's the most efficient, and all that, but when it comes down to pure footballing ability, the opinion that Suarez is the best since R9 might actually just be right. If you really watched him when he was at Liverpool and in his early years at Barcelona, you'd understand there was absolutely nothing he couldn't do. He was a genius with a different brain, and for a striker, he was so rare. Speaking of rare strikers leads us to Erling Haaland. What he's doing right now in the Premier League is truly phenomenal, something we have never seen before, and he could really go on to be the greatest striker the league has ever seen. But here's an unpopular opinion. If Zlatan Ibrahimovic had moved to the Premier League much earlier in his career, he would have been able to replicate this. Obviously, it would depend on what team he joined, how dominant they were, what style they played, and how many chances they created per game. But given the exact same conditions Haaland has now, he would have been able to do it. Prime Zlatan could do everything Haaland does, the acrobatics, headers, counter-attacks, all that. But he was more technical, more creative, better at set pieces, and more associative than Haaland currently is. So we really believe he could have done just as well as Haaland is doing. I mean, at 34, he had 22 goal contributions in 28 Premier League appearances for Man United. Imagine what he would have done if he were 10 years younger. Now, this next one might be pretty controversial, but hear us out. You see, everyone mocks Chelsea for doing silly business under this new ownership, but Chelsea's recruitment model is actually the best for business, especially for top clubs. They buy loads of young players with crazy potential, hire a coach who's good at developing them, and then try to get the best out of those young players. Some will turn into world-class players and lead the team like Cole Palmer, while some others will just be sold for profit like Noni Madueke. In the long run, coming from a business perspective, it's hard to go wrong with a model like this. Remember, most of these young players are bought at relatively low prices, and the long contracts even help the club spread the payment over longer periods, making it better for the books. With a model like this, Chelsea will always have players to sell, and these sales will fund any purchase they need to make in the future. Last summer, they spent €339.15 million on purchases, but made back €332.25 million from sales. So they only recorded a net loss of €6.9 million. Compare this to other big clubs, and you'll see how good this model is. Liverpool recorded a loss of €263.4 million. Arsenal's was €283.2 million. Man United 176.5, Man City 136.3, and Spurs 168.1. The difference is clear. You can argue about what's best for football, success or the careers of players, but from a business standpoint, it's obvious that Chelsea's model is the best. And since we're in London, let's now talk about another very controversial opinion. Arsenal would have won the Premier League already under Arteta if Granit Xhaka wasn't sold. The energy Xhaka brings to any squad is very evident, and we think that's the edge Arsenal have been lacking in recent years. Gabriel Magalhaes has started to morph into that leader, and that might be enough to take them over the line this time, but Arsenal already had that in Xhaka, but they let him go. You can see how he galvanized Leverkusen to their first ever Bundesliga trophy, and also what he's doing with Sunderland right now. He's such an influential player, and in really tight title races, this is the kind of player that often makes the difference. Of course, many Gooners will argue that the club did the right thing to let him go when he did, and we won't even try to argue with that. All we're saying is that there just might be some truth to that very unpopular opinion. Finally, we're of the opinion that if Harry Kane and Mo Salah were available for the second legs of the 2019 Champions League semi-finals, we would have had a completely different final. Remember the 2018-19 season, right? Where we had two incredible comebacks in back-to-back UCL nights. Liverpool came back against Barcelona, and Spurs came back against Ajax to book their places in the final. It's definitely an unpopular opinion, but we believe the English teams were able to pull that off because they were without their best players and top scorers. The absence of these guys forced the other players to give it their all instead of looking to one player to try and save them. Also, if Salah and Kane had played, the opponents would probably have marked them out of the game, which may have left the rest of the players clueless. Without those guys present, the defenders didn't really know who to focus on, so they ended up getting hurt by Lucas Moura and Wijnaldum. Who would have predicted that? Now, do you agree with the opinions we have talked about in this video? Are there more unpopular opinions you think might be true as well? Get in the comments and talk to us. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch the world's biggest tournament is coming, and the official FIFA World Cup 26 Tri-Under competition ball is here at the Goal 90 shop. Designed for the game's biggest stage, it's built for precision, speed, and control. Right now, you can make it yours with 30% off plus free shipping. Don't just watch the World Cup, own a piece of it. Visit goal90.shop today and order now.